Hello, my bookish friends. Welcome or welcome back. I am Elizabeth. This is Reading Riley, and today we're going to talk about 30 plus books that are coming out in the second quarter of 2023. That is April, May, and June. Most of these are thriller and horror books. There are some themes that I've seen as I've kind of been going through these. Quite a few of them have this podcast trope, which I love. If it never ends, if this trend just keeps going, I'll be totally happy. Also, this kind of exploration, this commentary about true crime in general and our obsession with it. Themes about motherhood in here, about identity and race. There's one specifically that's about the prison system that I'm really excited for. Climate change in our world and where we're at right now. A lot of female killers and books about obsession in here, and I don't know if these are going to be good for her books yet or not, but I'm excited for the prospect. I've got a couple books about books, which I know we always love. There's quite a few sapphic thriller and horror books in here. Anyway, let's just get into it. I'm going to go through these books in order starting in April and we'll end in June, and I will tell you all of them in order of their release date, to the best of my knowledge anyway. I'll also break it down in the chapters below so you can easily navigate through this. I'm going to put my other social medias right over here. Feel free to check that out. Come follow me over there. Let's talk about books. I've got a lot of notes. Starting April 4th, the first book that I'm interested in is called Natural Beauty. This is by Ling Huang. I've never read anything by this author. So far, this has 66 ratings on Goodreads and an average of 4.14, which is very few ratings, but still to see that 4 plus at any amount is exciting. The odd thing about this is they don't say our protagonist's name in the description. It just says our narrator, so I'm guessing we're being told the story in first person through her eyes. She is a young musician. She's a piano player, and apparently she can do something with the piano that no one else can do. She's like a prodigy. Her parents taught her this. It's a tradition that's been passed down in her family, but when her parents come down with this illness, she abandons her musical career and ends up working in this New York store called Holistic. It is a high-end beauty and wellness store that is known for its products and procedures. They have special things that suck bad Botox out of your face. They have eyelash extensions made from
spider webs?
Spider silk? Silk, that sounds better. And she gets kind of drawn into this lifestyle of beauty. This whole time they are pushing these products down her throat, things to make her legs look thinner, her hair lighter, her skin better. But it says behind these creams and tinctures lies something sinister. This is said to be about consumerism, self-worth, race, identity, and leaves readers with a shocking, unsettling truth. This is 272 pages hardcover, expected again on April 4th. Next on April 4th is The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. I don't think I've actually read anything by this author, but this one did sound pretty good. I believe this released already in the UK because it has 11,822 reviews and a 4.06 rating. So at that, with that many reviews at a 4.06, something tells me this is going to be good. There's a seaside cottage overlooking this cliff out into the ocean. Gabe and Pippa finally buy their dream house, just right on this cliff, overlooking the water. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, but this spot on this cliff becomes well known for people to go and take their lives. They jump off the cliff. And Gabe takes it upon himself to be the person that talks them out of it. He's like this hero character where he's like, no, don't do it. He sees them out there, he runs to save their lives, but then another person goes to take this jump and successfully jumps. Gabe wasn't there that time to talk them out of it, and it turns out Gabe knew this person. And so as Pippa starts to understand what happened, she starts to delve deeper into the mystery of this person. Did they jump? Were they pushed? Was Gabe involved in this in some way? What's going on? She starts to not trust Gabe. And who can we trust, really? This is 336 pages long. The next one, I've actually already read this one. I just read this. I'll give you a more in-depth description and my wrap-up at the end of the month. But this is called Blind Spots. This is by Thomas Mullen. This comes out as well on April 4th. It has a 4.03 out of 76 ratings as of now. And this is a crime novel, but it's also set in this dystopian future, which is what drew me into it. In this world, which is very similar to our world, 7 years ago, something called the blindness swept over the world, and in a short period of time, literally everybody went blind. In this world, we're following Mark Owens, who is a detective. He was a detective since before the blindness happened, and he's a detective now. 7 years later into this, they have gone through all kinds of craziness. The minute everyone went blind, it was just madness, chaos. People were dying, we were losing people, nobody knew where they were. It was madness. But then this tech company started up and developed these glasses, I guess you would say, called Vitters that connect to your spine, to your brain directly, and mimic sight. They allow you to see, but even though you're not technically using your eyes, you can still see what's going on around you. At first, the police were the only ones with access to this, and then it became, over time, easier to access for the normal everyday person. So in this crime novel, there's a scientist who is killed, and there's only one witness. The witness that was with him when he was killed says that she saw just a black splotch when the murderer killed her friend. And nobody believes her. Mark doesn't believe her. That's ludicrous, it's ridiculous, until someone else dies and Mark himself sees this blackout of a character. Like, it's not a person, it's just a black march. So the idea of this is what happens when what we think is reality is not reality. Our sense of reality around us is being manipulated and nobody believes us. How do we move forward from there? And this is 320 pages long. Next, we have The Scourge Between Stars. This is a sci-fi horror. It's got a 3.93 currently out of 169 ratings, and I think this is a novella, if I remember correctly. It's a pretty short one. Yeah, 176 pages. We're following Jacqueline Albright. She is the captain of Starship Calypso, and she is responsible for keeping the rest of humanity alive as they limp back towards Earth on this spaceship that's barely working anymore, that all of their ancestors took to live in a far-off colony way back when, and it was failed, so they're trying to get back to Earth. They are faced with constant threats of starvation. They're trying to get through all of these minefields in space. It's just really, really patchy. Like, it's rough. It's rough going getting back there. But then people start dying, and they are picking off crew members in a grim and bloody fashion. So Jacqueline and her crew must hunt down the ship's unknown intruder if they have any hopes of making it back to their solar system alive. I think this sounds like a kind of like a fun little sci-fi horror jaunt. We'll see. Again, on April 4th, there's so many on this date, we have You Know Her by Meagan Jennett. This only has 37 ratings right now, but it has a 4.22 out of those. It says Killing Eve meets Sharp Objects, a lush, savage Southern Gothic following two women, a fledgling murderer, and the cop that is determined to catch her. We're following Sophie and Nora. Nora is a detective. Sophie is a bartender. Nora comes in and asks Sophie about this man who they find his mutilated remains. And so she's questioning Sophie, this bartender, and she said, yeah, he stole a glass of wine and then he took off. Little does Nora know that Sophie was the one that killed him. In an odd turn of events, Nora and Sophie become friends, and eventually Nora starts to suspect that Sophie is her guy, but her senior detective does not believe that this serial killer that is on the loose could possibly be a woman. Oh, did I forget to mention that there's more people dying? They're dying and dying and dying all over the small town. Nobody knows what's going on. And so this is going to be like a cat and mouse game, and it sounds pretty good. This is said to be mystery, thriller, suspense, adult literary fiction, 368 pages. Next we have The House of Cotton. This also comes out on April 4th by Monica Brashears. This has a 3.58 out of 144 ratings, which doesn't scare me right now because I think it's going to be a weird one, and so it's probably not going to be for everyone. This is, I think, going to have a lot of social commentary. It says it's revealing the aftermath of the American plantation and what it means to be poor, Black, and a woman in the God-fearing South. We are following 19-year-old Magnolia. She feels stuck and haunted by her overdrawn bank account, by her predatory landlord, and by the ghost of her late grandmother, Mama Brown. She's working in this dead-end gas station job, and this guy named Cotton comes in one night and offers to turn her life around. He offers her a modeling job at his family's funeral home. I think this is when it starts getting weird. Magnolia accepts, and she's starting to make money. It seems like things are turning around. It seems like her luck is changing until Cotton's request starts to become more and more strange. And Magnolia starts to realize that there's a lot more at stake than just paying her rent. And that one is 304 pages. It says mystery, fiction, contemporary, horror, adult thriller. Next, on April 11th, we're moving forward. We have How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. This is by Katy Brent. It's got an average rating of 3.74 out of 2,118 ratings, and we're following Kitty Collins. It says, friend, lover, killer. He was following me, that guy from the nightclub who wouldn't leave me alone. I hadn't intended to kill him, of course, but I wasn't displeased when I did, and despite the mess I made, I appeared to get away with it. That's where my addiction started. I've got a taste for revenge, and quite frankly, I'm killing it. This says it's a deliciously dark, hilarious, twisty story about friendship, love, and murder for fans of My Sister the Serial Killer and How to Kill Your Family and Killing Eve. Not much to go on in that description, but I think it's going to be good. And that one is 384 pages. Next, on April 18th, we have an anthology by Tenanarive. I just read my first Tenanarive, and I loved it. It was called The Between. Excited to read more from her, and I think this one is going to be great. It's called The Wishing Pool. The stories within this range from horror to science fiction to suspense. Du's stories all share a sense of dread and fear, balanced with heart and hope. In some of the stories, the monster is racism itself, and others address the monster within or other universal struggles set against the supernatural or the surreal. It's going to have some of her older stories, but also some new stories as well, and that's 320 pages. Next, we have a bit of a dystopian novel. This is reminding me of The Last of Us that I'm obsessed with right now. This is called The Marigold. It's by Andrew F. Sullivan, and it comes out April 18th. This has 90 ratings so far with an average rating of 3.68, and it's set in near-future Toronto. Buffeted by environmental chaos and unfettered development, an unsettling new life form begins to grow beneath the surface, feeding off the past. Oh, I didn't catch that part before. That sounds interesting. The Marigold is this gleaming Toronto condo tower. There is a mysterious sludge that is slowly spreading throughout this tower. We're following Public Health Inspector Kathy Jin as she investigates this toxic mold as it infests the city's infrastructure from within. Then we're also following Sam Soda. It looks like he's some kind of an Uber driver, so he's just like going around the city waiting for his next rideshare alert. And then we're also following a 13-year-old girl named Henrietta who's following her friend who has been snatched down into a sinkhole from something down below. While all this is going on, they are currently building the Marigold 2, and the guy who's building it is wanting to put this up at any cost, whether it costs human life or not. Ecofiction, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, so this says it's tapping into the realms of body horror, urban dystopia, and ecofiction, which all three of those things sound perfect to me. Sounds like a good time. This is listed as horror, science fiction, and dystopian and thriller, and it's a 360-page book. Next, coming out on April 18th, is The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. This is also going to be the May book pick for the Midnight Society Book Club. As of right now, this has 325 ratings, and it's sitting at a 3.69 average. And I think this is kind of a retelling of the Mexican folklore story of La Llorona. I hope I'm saying that right, which roughly translates to the weeping woman or the wailer. Oh, she's a folk demon. Oh gosh. So we're following Alejandra, obviously, who no longer knows who she is. She's struggling with this darkness that threatens to consume her. A ghostly vision appears before her of this woman crying in a white gown. She starts to go see a therapist, and then she also starts delving into her family's history and past, starting with the biological mother that she never knew. And as she delves deeper into her family history, she realizes that heartbreak and tragedy are not the only things that she has in common with her foremothers. This is giving me practical magic energy. The crying woman was with them too. Alejandra has inherited more than just pain though. She's also inherited strength and the courage of her foremothers, and she will have to summon everything they have given her in order to banish La Llorona forever. So I'm excited for this one. 272 pages. That's kind of right in the sweet spot for me, and that comes out again on April 18th. Next, on April 25th, we have The Last Word. This is the new novel coming out by Taylor Adams, who wrote No Exit, which I loved. As of now, this has 202 ratings with a 4.31 average rating. And this sounds really good. It's said to be a psychological suspense. We're following this woman, Emma Carpenter. She lives in isolation with her golden retriever, house-sitting this old beachfront home on the Washington coast. Her only human contact is her enigmatic old neighbor and then the landlord of the house, but that's only by text. We have Isolation, which I love. And she reads this book, this horror book. It's terrible. She hates it. She gives it a 1-star review. The author of the book replies to her review and they start going tit for tat. They start going in a back and forth and they get in an argument about this 1-star review. But then weird things start happening at night while Emma's alone and she starts to think, is this author a little more bonkers than I thought? Maybe I should not have started that argument. Maybe I should not have given it a 1-star review. I think it's so clever as far as Taylor Adams goes for thinking of this because in a sense he's saying, hey, don't give my book a 1-star review. I mean, it's obviously not a real threat or anything, but I thought it was very clever. Anyway, Emma starts to look into his life and work and she finds that he's published 16 other novels, all similarly sadistic tales of stalking and murder. But who is he? How did he find her? And what else is he capable of? And this is 352 pages. Next, on April 25th, we have a YA sapphic horror novel involving cannibalism. I don't typically love YA novels, but this one sounds really good and right up my alley. It's called This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham. It has 195 ratings as of now and a 3.88 average rating. We're following 4 best friends at a music festival, and this is said to be for fans of Jennifer's Body. So 3 years ago, in this kind of dystopian future, again, the melting of Arctic permafrost released a pathogen of unknown origin into the atmosphere, causing a small percentage of people to undergo a transformation that became known as the hollowing. Those impacted slowly became intolerant to normal food and were only able to gain sustenance by eating the flesh of other human beings. Those who went without flesh quickly became feral. So 3 years later, they have developed this synthetic flesh that the people who are known as ghouls, I think it is. Yeah, people who have gone through the hollowing are known as ghouls and they can eat this synthetic flesh, also known as synth flesh. They can just be fine and fit in like normal people. So in this story, we're following 4 best friends and they are all quote-unquote ghouls. And they're off to a music festival in the desert. I think we all know which music festival this might be referencing. They have their coolers full of synth flesh. They are all ghouls and they are ready to party and have a good time. But on the first night of the festival, one of the girls goes feral and ends up killing and eating a boy. As other festival guests start disappearing around them, the girls soon discover someone is drugging ghouls and making them feral. So this is a mystery. They've got to figure out how to stop it, and soon, before more people end up dead. And this is categorized as horror, young adult, LGBT, lesbian, queer, thriller, mystery, and it's 352 pages. This next one is a little bit more on the sci-fi side as well. It sounded really good to me. This is called Ascension by Nicholas Binge. Really good pen name, by the way. This has 110 ratings right now and it has an average rating of 4.35. It says it's a mind-bending speculative thriller in which the sudden appearance of a mountain in the middle of the Pacific Ocean leads a group of scientists to a series of jaw-dropping revelations that challenge the notion of what it means to be human. Is it aliens? What is it? I don't know. I want to find out. So we have this enormous snow-covered mountain. It's appeared in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. No one knows when it showed up or what it's doing there or what's going on with it. We're following Harold Tunmore, who is a scientist of mysterious phenomena. His specialty is mysterious phenomena.
How do you get that job? Can I have that job?
He's contacted by this shadowy underground organization to kind of investigate, check this thing out, see what's going on. Him and his team go to this mountain and start climbing it. And the higher they get, the more they start to forget about their lives before the mountain. Time moves differently. Minutes turn into hours, turn into days. Paranoia quickly turns into violence among the crew. Slithering ancient creatures.
Ancient slithering creatures.
Pursue them. They are certain that if they get to the top of this peak, then they will find the answers that they are looking for. But have they stumbled upon the greatest scientific discovery ever? Or the seeds of their own demise? And it says the way it's framed is by the discovery of Harold Tunmore's unsent letters to his family. So it's going to be epistolary and it's going to be told through that framework of reading his letters of what happened. So it sounds mysterious and interesting. It's listed as science fiction, horror, fiction, thriller, mystery, mystery thriller, and that's 352 pages. Next, this one, I don't know if I'm gonna love it, but it has a trope in here that I like, so we'll see. I'll probably listen out for reviews before getting to this one, but this comes out on April 25th. It's called We Love to Entertain by Sarah Strohmeyer. This has 67 ratings with an average rating of 3.36 at the moment. It says this is a fast-paced, riveting psychological thriller that skewers our modern obsession with home renovation and fixer-uppers. So we're following this crew that are filming a TV show where they renovate houses. Holly and Robert Barron, they are young real estate investors and contestants. Oh, it's a competition. That's I forgot about that. So they're contestants in a competition run by the nation's most popular home renovation app. With millions in product endorsements and online followers at stake, they're rehabbing a Vermont home they scored at a bargain price to a chic hilltop estate ideal for entertaining. It's all camera-ready laughs and debates over herringbone tile until Holly and Robert go missing hours after their picture-perfect wedding, leaving behind a bloody trail. Suspicion falls on Eryk Turnbull, the Baron's 20-something assistant, who is secretly in love with Robert. Did Erica let her misguided passion turn her into a murderer? So claim the townsfolk in Snowdon, Vermont, who still haven't forgiven her for a tragic accident back in high school. Interesting. But Erica's mother, Kim, is not about to let small town gossip and a cop with an axe to grind destroy her daughter again. So is it really about the competition, or is it about this Erica? That's what I'm a little worried about. We'll see. This has 368 pages, and again, that comes out April 25th. Next, we have Death of a Bookseller by Alice Slater. This also comes out on April 25th. This has 318 ratings and a 3.94 average rating so far. This is a debut about a true crime obsessed bookseller. It's giving Joe Goldberg. It's very much like about an obsession. We're following Roach, who would rather listen to the latest episode of her favorite true crime podcast than pretty much do anything else. But she works at a local bookstore called Spines, and she has to assist the customers. She's really not on board until she meets this woman, Laura. And she recognizes a kindred spirit in her. Apparently she is a children's bookseller and arrives to help rejuvenate the struggling bookstore branch. Roach still kind of keeps her distance, but once she realizes that Laura has this odd family history and she herself may have been involved in a true crime, her interest swiftly blooms into a dangerous obsession. It's a darkly funny suspense novel. I love the cover on this one. It says it raises ethical questions about the fervor for true crime and how to handle stories that don't belong to us. This is a theme that we will see again within these books. Really loving that. This is 368 pages, and that comes out again April 25th. Next, on April 25th, we have You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. She wrote The Perfect Marriage, which I own. Yeah, right here, and still have not read. So we'll see about this one. It's got 308 ratings as of now and an average score of 3.75. We're following Grace Evans. She is an overworked New Yorker, and so she's looking for a total escape. She books this Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. When she arrives, she's pleasantly surprised to find that the owner is this very handsome man named Calvin. But there's no cell phone service. She finds that there is a missing woman going on. And despite feeling that something is not right about this time, she ends up in an affair or like being attracted to this Calvin guy. But his infatuation starts to turn into like an obsession, and she is getting a little bit nervous about what's going on. And Calvin fears that Grace is hiding something from him. It's told from dual points of view, so I think we don't know who the bad guy is. It says, You Shouldn't Have Come Here is a thrill ride and a cautionary tale of what can go wrong when you open up your house and your heart to a total stranger. This is 350 pages. All right, moving on to May. The first book that I want to talk about comes out on May 1st. It's called Something Bad Wrong. This is by Eryk Pruitt. It has 33 ratings so far with an average of 4.0. To catch the killer who eluded her detective grandfather 50 years ago, a true crime podcaster, there we go with the true crime again, must contend with outdated evidence, ulterior motives, and dark family secrets that got in the way. Her name is Jess Keeler, and she's returned to Deaton County, North Carolina to pick up where her grandfather left off. Apparently, 2 teenagers were murdered back in the day in 1972, and her grandfather never figured it out. There's some kind of secret going on there with why he never figured it out. even though he was the detective on the case. Enlisting the help of disgraced reporter Dan Decker, Justin discovers ugly truths about the first investigation, which was shaped by corruption, egos, and a family secret that may be the key to the crime. Told in dual timeline that covers both investigators, Something Bad Wrong explores human folly, hubris, and how sometimes to solve a crime, you have to find out who's covering it up. This is 440 pages, a little on the longer side. And again, that comes out May 1st. Next, on May 2nd, we have another Midnight Society book club pick, and that is The Marriage Act by John Mars. This is going to be the June pick. So this comes out in May, and then we'll be reading it for the Midnight Society book club in June. This, I believe, has already come out in the UK, and it has 1,700 ratings with a 4.13 average rating, which is really good. I'm very excited because some of John Mars's newer books I haven't loved as much as like The One and The Passenger, so I'm hoping he's gonna go back to his roots. You know what I'm saying? This has a very concise but short description. What if marriage was the law? Dare you disobey? Britain, near future, a right-wing government believes it has the answer to society's ills. What is that answer? The Sanctity of Marriage Act, which actively encourages marriage as the norm by punishing those who choose to remain single. But 4 couples are about to discover just how impossible relationships can be when the government is monitoring every aspect of your relationship and your personal lives, monitoring every word, every minor disagreement, and will use every tool in its arsenal to ensure everyone will love, honor, and obey. This is listed as a thriller, science fiction, dystopia, mystery. It sounds amazing. 432 pages. I'm really excited for this one. Next, this one sounds really good too. It's called Chain Gang All-Stars. This is by Nanakwame Adjei-Brenyah. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. This, as of now, has 164 ratings with a 4.38 average. This is the one that has all that social commentary about our prison system that I had mentioned earlier. Gladiators exist within the prison system. They fight to the death in order to gain their freedom. So essentially the movie Gladiator, but within the legality of our current prison system. We're following Loretta Thurwar and Hamara Hurricane Stacks Stacker. And they're the stars of Chain Gang All-Stars, the cornerstone of CAPE, or Criminal Action Penal Entertainment, a highly popular, highly controversial, profit-raising program in America's increasingly dominant private prison industry. In CAPE, the prisoners travel as links in chain gangs, competing in death matches for packed arenas with righteous protesters at the gates. Thurwar and Stacks, both teammates and lovers, are the fan favorites. And if all goes well, Thurwar will be free in just a few matches, a fact she carries as heavily as her lethal hammer. As she prepares to leave her fellow links, she considers how she might help preserve their humanity in defiance of those so-called games. It's also giving Hunger Games, can we say? But CAPE's corporate owners will stop at nothing to protect their status quo, and the obstacles they lay in Thurwar's path have devastating consequences. This one sounds really great. It is listed as science fiction, dystopian, fantasy, LGBT, queer, and it's 384 pages. Next, on May 2nd, we have The Salt Grows Heavy. This is by Cassandra Caw. She wrote Nothing But Blackened Teeth, which I did not like at all. So I'm a little bit reticent about this one, but the premise sounds really good. This is about killer mermaids, essentially. It has 153 ratings with a 3.95 average rating as of now. It says it's a razor-sharp and bewitching fairy tale of discovering the darkness in the world and the darkness within oneself. You may think you know how the fairy tale goes. A mermaid comes to shore and weds the prince, but what the fables leave out is that mermaids have teeth. And now her daughters have devoured the kingdom and burned it to ashes. On the run, the mermaid is joined by a mysterious plague doctor.
Odd pairing, but okay, we'll take it.
With a darkness of their own, and deep in the eerie snow-crusted forest, the pair stumble upon a village of ageless children who thirst for blood. This sounds creepy as hell. And the 3 saints who control them. What? Like what? The mermaid and her doctor must embrace the cruelest parts of their true nature if they hope to survive. This is said to be horror, fantasy, adult, novella, also very short, 112 pages. Also queer. And that comes out May 1st. Wait, May 1st or May 2nd? One of the two. I'm not sure right now. Next, on May 9th, we have The Graveyard of Lost Children by Katrina Monroe. This has 51 ratings so far with an average of 3.76. It says, once she has her grip on you, she will never let you go. And this is following Olivia Dahl. When she was 4 months old, she was almost murdered. Her mother started acting very strange and became obsessed with the idea that Olivia was a changeling, that the only way to get her real baby back was to leave Olivia at the bottom of this well, where there were these mothers calling to her, these women calling for her, dead women. Oh gosh. Now Olivia is ready to give birth to a daughter of her own, and for the first time, she hears the women whispering. She's dreading the birth of her daughter because she knows that now, whatever her mom was going through, she's going through as well. She begins to fear that this baby inside her is not her daughter at all, and that history is in fact repeating itself. And then soon the images of a black-haired woman plague Olivia's nightmares, drawing her back to that well that almost claimed her life, tying mother and daughter together in a desperate cycle of fear and violence that must be broken if Olivia has any hope of saving her child or herself. It says it's baby teeth meets the invited. So like ghosts and like creepy child stuff. Interesting. Haunting story of the sometimes fragile connection between a woman's sense of self and what it means to be a good mother. I have a feeling this is going to have a lot to say. I'm intrigued. This is 384 pages. It's listed also as LGBT, horror, fiction, adult thriller. Next, we have Adjei by Lisa Bordeaux. This is said to be a mystery thriller and sci-fi, so I'm wondering, based on this description, where that sci-fi element comes in, because it sounds like just a regular old thriller, so it could be interesting. Again, I think this might have that kind of eco-dystopian-ness to it. We're following S. She wakes up alone on a sailboat in the remote Pacific Northwest with no memory of who she is, how she got there, but there's a note, and it says, start over, don't make yourself known, don't look back. So she's sailing across this ocean, and along the way she finds these clues that point to a desperate attempt at erasing her former life, but she doesn't know why. And also, someone's watching her. Someone who knows she must never learn her truth. In S's world, the Earth is precariously balanced at a climate tipping point. What does that mean? And she is perched at the edge of a choice. Which life does she want? The one taken from her in the dangerous secret that was buried, or the new one that she can make for herself? It says, it's a galvanizing riddle that is just as unmooring as it seems. This sharp, character-driven odyssey explores a future challenged by our quickly changing world and the choices we must make to save what matters most. I'm intrigued. This is 288 pages, again, in that kind of perfect spot as far as length for me. Next, we have Killing Me by Michelle Gagnon. I'm sure that is not pronounced like that. Michelle Gagnon, maybe? This has 213 ratings currently with an average of 4.26, which is hopeful. That sounds good. It says that this is the laugh out loud, funny thriller that we never knew we needed. She escaped a serial killer and then things got weird. Following Amber Jameson, she cannot believe she's about to become the latest victim of this serial killer. She is savvy and street smart, so when she ends up getting pushed into, of all things, a windowless white van, she's more pissed off than anything. And then she's miraculously saved by this mysterious woman who is hunting down serial killers. Like, who are you? And you'd think escaping this psychopath is the worst of her problems, but it's about to get worse for Amber because her close call with law enforcement leaves them circling a past that she was trying to outrun. So now she has all of this attention on her and attention to her past that she was trying to get rid of. So she's forced to flee across the country, ending up at a seedy motel in Las Vegas with a noir-obsessed manager and a sex worker as her unlikely companions. I mean, this sounds hilarious. In danger right behind, she's landed in the crosshairs of the world's most prolific killer, caught up in a deadly game that's been going on for years. To survive, she's forced to dust off her old playbook and partner with someone she can't trust. The odds are against her, but sometimes you just have to roll the dice. This sounds really funny. It sounds great. It's 366 pages. Next, we have a new book by Mike Bakoven called Killing It. And this one sounds great. I really, really loved Fantastic Land by him that I read last year or the year before. So I'm very hopeful for this. This comes out on May 23rd. It has 2 ratings with an average of 3 .00 so far, so really that doesn't say much to me. Since the late 1980s, the Square has been one of the most important clubs in New York for the alt comedy scene. But before that, it was something much darker.
What was it?
And now is a place where evil lingers, waiting for a chance to spill blood. After a night of killing it on stage, 4 comics find themselves in a desperate situation as the spirits of the past come out to play, and a fight for laughs becomes a fight for survival in the most unlikely of places. That's it. That's all it says. Like, I don't know what's going on with the past of this nightclub, but I love that it's about comics and they're gonna start dying. We know they are. Sounds great. All right, next on May 25th, we have The Fall by Jilly McMillan. I did not like The Long Weekend that I read by her, but I have high hopes for this one. It sounds interesting. So again, this may be one that I wait for reviews on, but we'll see. It has 51 ratings right now, and of those, an average of 4.04, which is pretty good, but still not very many ratings. We're following Nicole and Tom, and their lives are changed overnight when they win a £10 million lottery. Before they know it, they've moved into the state-of-the-art glass barn conversion in the stunning grounds of Longcol Manor in Gloucestershire. But their dream quickly turns into a nightmare when Tom is found dead in the swimming pool. Tom didn't last very long. He did not make it long. And he has a wound on his head. Someone close to home must be responsible. But other than the young couple who live in the manor and their housekeeper in the coach house next door, what is a coach house? Is that like a mother-in-law suite? There's no one around for miles. So who among them is capable of murder? 400 pages. All right, this next one is a little bit different for me, but it is a book about books, and I cannot say no to that. I just can't. It's called The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. This comes out on May 30th, and it's said to be fantasy, magical realism, and romance, potentially. This is essentially Willy Wonka about books. Years ago, a reclusive, mega best-selling children's author quit writing under mysterious circumstances. Suddenly, he resurfaces with a brand new book in a one-of-a-kind competition, offering a prize that will change the winner's life forever. We're following Lucy Hart. She grew up without parents. She had a childhood marked by neglect and loneliness. Now that she's grown, she's a teacher. She loves her kids. She's a 26-year-old teacher's aide, excuse me. She's able to share her love of reading with bright young students, especially 7-year-old Christopher Lamb, who was left orphaned after the tragic death of his parents. Lucy would give anything to adopt Christopher, but even the idea of becoming a family seems like an impossible dream without proper funds and stability. Just when Lucy is about to give up, Jack Masterson announces he's finally written a new book. Even better, he's holding a contest at his home on the real Clock Island, and Lucy is one of the 4 lucky contestants chosen to compete to win the one and only copy of this book. The series is called the Clock Island series by Jack Masterson. So for Lucy, she wants to win this. It means everything to her and Christopher. But first she has to contend with ruthless book collectors, wily opponents, and the distractingly handsome and grumpy Hugo Reese, the illustrator of the Clock Island books. Meanwhile, Jack, the mastermind Masterson, is plotting the ultimate twist ending that could change all of their lives forever. It sounds sweet. It sounds lovely. I'm here for it. 304 pages. Next we have on May 30th, The Vanishing Hour. This is by Serafina Nova Glass. I just read On a Quiet Street by her last year and really liked it. It really hit that domestic thriller itch, and so I'm hoping I will like this one as well. This has only 15 ratings so far, but a 4.6 average. We're following Grace Holloway, and she keeps to herself. She runs a small inn off a rural coastline in Maine, and she prefers the off-season where she doesn't have to deal with anybody.
I get it, Grace.
She survived a kidnapping and trauma that nobody could ever have understood, and so that's what's affected her, and that's why she just wants to be isolated and by herself where she feels safe. A man named Aiden Coleman knocks at the door looking for a room. He came to town to try to help find his elderly father who has gone missing. Grace doesn't want him staying there because she doesn't want all of the reminders of the police and the investigation and all of the trauma that's going to be triggered by this man and the attention he's bringing by staying there while looking for his missing father. But she realizes that she may have information that could help him. And then Kira Everett, a woman desperate to find her missing daughter, enters the picture, and the 3 stories combine. They all have something in common, and there is a thread connecting all 3. So it could be good. We'll see. I don't know. 320 pages. Now we're moving on to June. First, on June 6th, we have Maeve Fly. This is by C.J. Lead. Again, I have not read anything by this author, but this sounds amazing. There are 98 ratings so far with an average rating of 3.99. It says, by day, Maeve Fly works at the happiest place in the world as every child's favorite ice princess. Is she Elsa? Is she Elsa? By the neon glow of the Sunset Strip, Maeve haunts the dive bars with a drink in one hand and a book in the other, imitating her misanthropic literary heroes. But when Gideon Green, her best friend's brother, moves to town, he awakens something within her. Something dangerous. And the world she knows suddenly shifts beneath her feet. Untethered, Maeve ditches her discontented act and tries a new persona, a bolder, bloodier one. Inspired by the pages of American Psycho, step aside Patrick Bateman, it's Maeve's turn with the knife. So is this going to be good for her? I don't know. Is she just going to be unhinged? And I don't know. It says horror, adult, fiction, fantasy, 288 pages, again, right in that sweet spot. And that comes out June 6th. Again, on June 6th, we have Everything the Darkness Eats by Eryk LaRocca. And this has 39 ratings so far with an average of 4.21. It says, an insidious darkness threatens to devastate a rural New England village when occult forces are conjured and when bigotry is left unrestrained. I really like this author's point of view. I think it's going to have a lot to say. It says, after the recent string of disappearances in a small Connecticut town, a grieving widower with a grim secret is drawn into a dangerous ritual of dark magic. Meanwhile, a member of local law enforcement tasked with uncovering the culprit soon begins to learn of a current of unbridled hatred simmering beneath the guise of the town's idyllic community. It says it's a haunting supernatural thriller, so we'll see. 202 pages, relatively short, June 6th. Next, on June 6th, we have The Forbidden Territory of a Terrifying Woman. This is by Molly Lynch. This is a debut. It's only got 8 ratings, but it's got a 3.63 right now. Fates and Furies meets Melancholia. I think Fates and Furies was that like fairy TV show. Maybe it's based on a book. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's not it at all. Don't know what Melancholia is. It says it's an ominous and absorbing debut novel about marriage and motherhood in a time of ecological collapse, as mothers around the world begin to mysteriously vanish from their homes. So we're following Ada, who is a woman from Montreal living reluctantly in Michigan. Why would you reluctantly live in Michigan? Michigan's beautiful. She vanishes from her bed one night. Her husband begins to search for her, but the feds are already involved because across the country and around the world, mothers are disappearing from their beds. It says, where did Ada go? What has she gone through? And how does the mystery relate to the forest that she seemed magnetically drawn to? Confronting the role of motherhood and the meaning of home in the wreckage of capitalism and climate change. Woo! The Forbidden Territory of a Terrifying Woman is that rare, dazzling debut that is both thrilling and profound. It is a mystery, a play on myths of metamorphosis, and above all, a story of love between husband and wife, mother and child, deeply troubled by the future we face. Okay, 288 pages. Again, right there. Love it. All right, next we have another collection of short stories. This is by Agustina Bastarrica, who wrote Tender is the Flesh. And that Tender is the Flesh is the only thing I've written by then. I think it may be the only thing translated into English. She is a Spanish author, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a collection of 19 dark, wildly imaginative short stories. I'm really excited to see what she comes up with. So far, it has 369 ratings with an average of 3.62. Collection of 19 brutal, darkly funny short stories. Through stories about violence, alienation, dystopia, Bastarrica's vision of the human experience emerges in complex and unexpected ways, often unsettling, sometimes thrilling, and always profound. Yeah, so it's 176 pages, 19 stories in 176 pages. They're all going to be relatively short. Very excited to see what comes of that. And that comes out on the 20th, June 20th. Again, on June 20th, we have The Spare Room by Andrea Bartz. I have not read by this author before, but this one actually sounds really good. It's got 218 ratings so far with an average of 3.59. And this is also a Reese's Book Club pick if you're interested in that. We're following Kelly Doyle. Her new life in Philadelphia has turned into a nightmare because this is during the pandemic. She's friendless, jobless, and now she's in lockdown in a tiny apartment with a man who just broke up with her. So yeah, that sounds absolutely terrible. Oh, he called off their wedding. They were engaged. He called off the wedding. Asshole. And to be in lockdown with that person, whoo, that's rough. So anyway, she rekindles her childhood friendship with this woman, Sabrina. Sabrina is now a glamorous, best-selling author with this high-powered husband. They're like this power couple. They offer Kelly an escape. They say, look, we have this giant house. We have a spare room. Just come live with us. You don't have to be stuck there. Just come stay with us. And she's like,
yes, please. Thank you very much.
So she goes and moves in there, and she finds herself strangely attracted to both of the couples, and they are attracted back, and they begin this like relationship. They say they're going to open their marriage for her. And so they start diving in deep. Then Kelly finds out that she's not the first one that this happened to. There was a woman before her, and
That woman is now missing.
and as she starts to dig into their stories, like stories about how they met are just not adding up. Their stories keep changing, little things aren't making sense, and so now she basically has to escape this before she, in fact, goes missing as well. Sounds like the premise is great. I'm really excited for this. 336 pages. Next on June 20th, we have Don't Forget the Girl. This reminds me of Notes on an Execution a little bit. This is by Rebecca McKenna, and it has 67 ratings so far with an average of 4.27. It says, we never remember the dead girls, and we never forget the killers. 12 years ago, 18-year-old University of Iowa freshman Abby Hartman disappeared. Now, John Allen Blue, the serial killer who's suspected of her murder, is about to be executed.
Wait, is he suspected or is he convicted? Why is he going to be executed if he's not convicted?
Anyway, Abby's best friends Bree and Chelsea watch as Abby's memory is unearthed and overshadowed by Blue and his flashier crimes. The friends, estranged in the wake of Abby's disappearance and suffering from years of unvoiced resentments, must reunite when a high-profile podcast, ding ding ding, podcast, dedicates its next season to Blue's murders. Okay. Tense and introspective, Don't Forget the Girl is an astonishing debut thriller, another debut, that mines the complexities of friendship and the secrets between us that we may take to the grave. It says thriller, queer, adult, mystery, fiction, mystery, adult fiction, 320 pages. Sounds great. Next on June 20th, we have The Quiet Tenant. Sorry, I'm drinking red wine, so if my lips are getting more red as I'm talking, that's why. Cheers. This is by Clemence Michellon. It sounds French. Sounds like a French name, but I don't know how to pronounce things in French. Clément Michelon. This has 209 ratings with an average of 4.18, which is pretty high. And I thought this one we were going to be following the POV of a serial killer, but again, similarly to the last one, it's not focusing on the serial killer, it's focusing on the women in his life. But he is Aiden Thomas. It says he's a hardworking family man and somewhat beloved figure of the small upstate town where he lives. He's the kind of man who always lends a hand and has a good word for everyone, but Aiden has a dark secret he's been keeping from everyone in town and those closest to him. He's a kidnapper and a serial killer. He's murdered 8 women, and there's a 9th he has earmarked for death, Rachel, who's been in prison in his backyard for 5 years. Well, Aiden's wife dies, and he and his daughter, who we also get a perspective from, 13-year-old Cecilia, they have to move out of their house because the wife died and something's going on, or maybe they can't afford it. I don't know what the deal is, but they have to move out of the house, and they gotta take Rachel with them, this imprisoned woman. Well, he thinks that she's been in there for 5 years, she's probably brainwashed by now, she's not gonna try to escape, so he introduces her to his daughter as a family friend. After they move into this new house, he meets Emily, a local restaurant owner, who develops a crush on him. And so we're following the perspective of the daughter, the woman that's being held captive, and Emily, the restaurant owner, and as they unravel and discover who he is, I assume. Sounds really good. It's listed as mystery thriller, fiction, mystery, adult fiction, crime, psychological thriller, and it's 320 pages long. Next on June 20th, we have The Whispers. This is by Ashley Audrain. I didn't love the push, but I didn't hate it, by the same author. I think one of the main problems was that I went into it thinking it was a thriller when it was actually more of like a family drama, suspense, but it did have those themes in there that I typically like, with like that like creepy child theme. Anyway, this one has 104 ratings so far with a 4.01 average rating. It's a propulsive page turner about 4 families whose lives are changed when the unthinkable happens and what is lost when we give in to our own worst impulses. That's
Exceptionally vague.
on Harlow Street In this well-to-do neighborhood, the couples and their children gather for a barbecue as the summer starts to wind down. Drinks continue late into the night, and everything is fabulous until the picture-perfect hostess explodes in a fury because her son disobeys her. Everyone at the party hears her veneer crack. They think she's this polished, perfect woman, but then she cracks. They see who she truly is on the inside as she's yelling at her son. And then before long, that same boy falls from his bedside window in the middle of the night. His mother can only sit by his side in the hospital, and she won't say a word to anybody. It's giving me silent patient. She won't say a word to anybody. His life hangs in the balance, and we don't know the truth of what actually happened. But I'm guessing a lot of people think that she pushed him out the window. What happens next over the course of a tense 3 days as each of these women grapple with what led to that terrible night, exploring envy, women's friendships, desire, and the intuitions that we silence. The Whispers is a chilling novel that marks Adjei-Brenyah as a major women's fiction talent. It says mystery thriller. I'm going to go into it thinking it is family drama and maybe I will enjoy it more. This is 336 pages. Next on June 20th is one that I have mixed feelings about. It's the new Riley Sager. I really did not like his last book. But again, this sounds good. All of his books sound good. He makes it sound good. This is called The Only One Left. It's got 150 ratings so far with an average of 4.18. It says it's a gothic chiller. What does that mean? I don't know. About a young caregiver assigned to work for a woman accused of a Lizzie Borden-esque massacre decades earlier. I mean, how can I not read this? It sounds good. Damn it. So there's this poem. It says, at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. So this happened in 1929. People always assumed that Lenora, 17 years old at the time, killed her family. Throughout all of these years, Lenora has never left this mansion, and at this point it's decaying. She has stayed within this mansion this entire time. And so she has this home health aide that comes to take care of her and to work for her named Kit McDear. After her previous nurse fled in the middle of the night. Oh, she's in her 70s and confined to a wheelchair. Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes. Why is this giving me Verity? And could only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. Well, one day Lenora says to Kit, I want to tell you everything. Kit helps Lenora type out the story of what actually happened all of those years ago in 1929. But Kit starts to suspect that Lenora might not be telling the full truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she first thought. 368 pages long. God damn it, it sounds good. Ugh. Don't let me down, Riley. Next, I almost forgot to add this one in, is 0 Days by Ruth Ware. This has a 3.97 average rating out of 104 ratings as of now. This one didn't sound great to me. I love Ruth Ware. I'm a huge Ruth Ware stan. I have my Ruth Ware pile right here. But I don't know about this one. This is an adrenaline-fueled thriller that combines Mr. and Mrs. Smith with The Fugitive, about a woman in a race against time to clear her name and find her husband's murderer. Hired by companies to break into buildings and hack security systems, Jack and her husband Gabe are the best penetration specialists in the business. Interesting title. But after a routine assignment goes horribly wrong, Jack arrives home to find her husband dead. To add to her horror, the police are closing in on their suspect, her. Suddenly on the run and quickly running out of options, Jack must decide who she can trust as she circles closer to the real killer in this unputdownable and heart-pounding mystery from the author whose
propulsive prose keeps readers on the hook and refuses to let anyone off until all has been revealed.
That's dramatic. Wow. Yeah, we'll see about this one. I'm gonna read it because it's Ruth Ware, but that premise doesn't sound great to me. But she is so good at atmosphere, so we'll see. Oh, last one. Okay, June 27th. That is Lay Your Body Down by Amy Suter Clark. This has 16 ratings right now with an average of 4.31 stars. And it says, a young woman returns to her rural Minnesota hometown where a radical and evangelical pastor has poisoned everyone's minds and may be covering up a murder. So we're following Del Walker. She fled her hometown and its cult-like church and vowed to never return. The man she loved, Lars, left her to marry this town's local golden girl, Eve. Eve has a blog where her relationship with Lars is the center of this blog. Also goes on and on about this pastor's conservative philosophy about women and marriage. But 6 years later, Lars is suddenly killed, and Eve's convinced it couldn't have been an accident. So when Dell returns to her hometown for the funeral, she discovers the now mega church and the insidious patriarchal teachings of Pastor Rick Franklin has grown not only in size but in influence. Eve was clearly discontent in her marriage despite the carefully constructed noble wife positivity of her blog posts. And Dell knows better than anyone just how far she will go to get what she wants. So maybe she stole Lars from Dell. Dell is determined to cut through the church's lies and corruption and find out who killed Lars, even if it means confronting the religious trauma that she's spent years trying to bury. 272 pages, perfect, sounds amazing, can't wait. And that is it. I think that was like 35 or 37 books that are coming out in the next 3 months. So hopefully you found some to add to your TBR. If you're interested in checking out my Q1 new release books, I will tag that above and below for all the books in 2023 that came out in January, February, and March. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I try to give you guys all of the most up-to-date information that I can possibly find to keep you in the loop with the book community. And I sincerely appreciate every single one of you. Don't forget that life is short, so read Riley. Cheers and goodbye.